Hello there. Hello, Uber-Tuber-Rubbers and Tuberettes alike. It's a short talk in the trailer park. Got the park part in with, who, the old guy. It's a Sunday morning about 7:40, I think. I just got back from eating a breakfast down at VI. And today they got the spuds right. Remember I was whining and carrying on about the hash whites? And it's funny because the young lady, Rose, I think that's her name. I actually should remember. She's an excellent young lady, and she's been serving down there for years. Anyway, she knew. As soon as I mentioned it, I said, hey, look, on the potatoes, could you have them cook them? Make them a little brown? And hash whites. It was like raw potatoes. Anyway, today they were great, and nice omelet. And I just wanted to chit-chat with you some. I've had these series of, I guess you'd call them speculations, and while I was eating breakfast there, and I thought, maybe I should make a video. I'm sure my listeners would love to hear what I was thinking about at breakfast today. Well, okay, it's depressing, but the thing is that I want to begin one more time with it's apparently a cottage industry out here in video land. It's kind of like, here's the topic. It's the end of the world. And it's sort of funny. We have an entire generation or a series of generations. But, in the Bible, the Lord speaks of this generation. In other words, this current crop we have, whether they're 85 or 18 months old, this crowd right now has a real challenge before us in terms of, if it is indeed approaching the end of days, the end of what we would call reality on this planet, and the reality of this planet. Think about that. That's big doings. And so the idea that Jesus could come at any time is absolute blather and nonsense. Ask the apostle. He says two things must happen first, okay? Anyway, I was thinking about one of those things. And the apostate movement, the great apostasy, it's the idea of a slave running away from its master. The apostate movement is going to, as far as we can tell, sweep the world, regardless of denominations, whether it's Roman Catholic or Protestant or even Orthodox. Now, there's also independent churches, and I'm not going to go into those guys right now. The point being is that we're talking about a worldwide movement. And I was thinking to myself, I can see how, as an example, that video I briefly reviewed the other day about the UMC going apparently off the rails into La La Land. Essentially, their gospel, their good news, what they're testifying to is not Jesus Christ risen indeed and risen in me and in us. No, they're testifying about something else. And essentially, it's a hijacking of the worldlings' wokeness. And whatever woke faction you can abide by, whether it's the eco-green thing or it's the trans GBC, TDV, DD, PVC people, or whatever it is, you're basically black, white racism. Just get on board with one of those, or all of them above. And oh yeah, by the way, I am supposed to be sexually confused right now, whether I'm a man or a woman or something in between or altogether different. Blah 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 blah. All that blather is thrown in there. Well, okay, so we can pray for the Methodists that they would come to their senses and reject this nonsense. And I think a lot of the Methodist churches have sheared off from this, and they're seen now as a faction. They would be the true blue believers, I think. But at any rate, the apostate movement will sweep regardless of denomination. Now, I was thinking, are the Presbyterians really going to fall in with this trans activism stuff? And the so-called rainbow flag, which the colors are wrong. I just don't see that happening. But, now maybe the big Presbyterian, the mainline Presbyterian might, but the PCA and the OPC, there are a couple of other small denominations in Presbyterianism that I believe are still basically connected back to their biblical word and sound confession. In this case, we're talking the Westminster Confession, the unabridged version. Back, they did some work, the liberals did back in the 50s and 60s to take the confession and kind of water it down. But at any rate, we need to think about how this is going to happen. And I was thinking, the one thing that makes this now the great apostasy itself, as far as I understand it, okay? And now this is me, Mike Labor, so I've never heard another Bible teacher, and I'm not a Bible teacher, by the way. I've never heard a Bible teacher indicate what I believe this as the same thing with regard to the apostasy. In other words, the breaking moment when the teeter-totter tips and it becomes apostate outright. How does it happen? And I think, honestly, it's going to have to happen in Israel in a reconstructed temple with bloody sacrifice being carried out by a so-called relative of Aaron, the high priest, with somehow a reconstituted covenant, Ark of the Covenant there present. How are they going to get all that stuff? Give me a break. That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, the reinstituted bloody sacrifice for the atonement, Yom Kippur. If the high holy day of atonement, the day once a year when a priest went in to make offering for the sins of the people of Israel with bloody animal dead things and stuff, he would sprinkle blood on them, and he would go into the Holy of Holies, and they'd have a rope around his foot in case he fell over dead in there. They could at least drag him out without having to go in. If all that junk ever gets constituted again, and they actually commence bloody sacrifice on Yom Kippur as an atoning day, I think that's where the straw snaps right there. That's the last straw. And I think from there on, boom, you're into a full tilt apostate movement. Now, are the Presbyterians going to line up with the idea of a bloody sacrifice? I hope not. I really do. I can't see how they could ever endorse it. Gee, that sounds wholesome. But the idea being is that the way that the average guy, the average Joe or Josephine, is going to be co-opted into this movement is financial. When you have CBDCs, then they're talking about dragging them out pretty soon. CBDCs are going to be, so to speak, money-free money. It's just going to be a ledger with ones and zeros on it in a computer data server somewhere. There is no actual money. It's just dots on paper, and when they print them. But it's just charges on a disk in a computer. There is no money. And so when you have a digital currency, what's the first thing that's going to happen? Ask yourself. Thieves. How are you going to hack your way into it? And it's supposedly going to be unhackable, ironclad security. Right. Until it gets torn to pieces by hackers, because anything that can be built as a digital system can be hacked eventually. So at any rate, the issue of the CBDC then becomes security. Remember, on a $20 bill or on a $100 bill, if you look up in the light, maybe with a big bright light or the sun behind it, you can see a little, let's say if it's Franklin on this one, you'll see a little Franklin off to the side, kind of a ghost Franklin in the background. And that's just one item on the bill. That guarantees that it's not counterfeit. How do you prevent counterfeiting in a currency that doesn't have actual dollars? You have to provide security features in the user. In the hand or in the forehead, a thing that without this thing you cannot legally buy nor sell. Okay, so in other words, in a cash-free universe, how do people make donations to the church? They would have to do it through a digital portal. They would have to scan the QR code and get online and whatever, and have the funds transferred electronically from their secure account to another secure account called XYZ Church Incorporated. Now the church is in the business of being the toll keeper for what is an unalloyed crime, the idea of taking the mark upon you. And now this is how the church is going to, pay for her meat and potatoes, by accepting money through that portal. See, now all of a sudden you have an apostate movement where the rubber meets the road. And if this organization wants to stay afloat and it's in a cash-free zone, the only way it can be funded is through first of all, a digital currency, ones and zeros, that's all, and can be funded through that. But when that fails, because it will, the security features, which have to necessarily be included, unfortunately, that puts the church in the business of being a toll keeper for hell. In other words, to buy and sell with this mark, to even have it on your body, is, as far as I can tell, the nearest thing in the book of the Revelation to the unforgivable sin. Those who do that will indeed taste the fury and the wrath of God. Don't go there. Repeat the secret Christian mantra. Actually, Jewish would be okay. I fear God. I fear the God of the Bible. I am who is a terrible person. And I don't mean terrible as a bad person. I mean terror. Terrible. People will faint in fear and, never mind. The point being is that I was thinking, in an apostate movement, what you always have, it always shifts off target. What is our testimony about anyway? We're testifying to a message that we've been entrusted with. What was the message? Well, it was called news. Well, what was the news? Church, what was the news? Do you remember what the news was? That you remember in the Narnia stories? I hope you read those Narnia stories. It's excellent writing. The young kiddos in the one where they go underground, and I forgot the name of that one. Puddleglum and two Earth kids go underground on this great adventure to the underworld to find a prince who's been enchanted and stuff. Well, they're supposed to keep repeating the signs over and over to themselves every morning before they get going, and every night before they go to bed. They're supposed to remember the signs that Aslan the lion gave them. And, of course, they don't. And things happen because of that. And yet this is worked into the greater plot. I mean, it's very excellent storytelling. The guy, he's a beautiful author. But the idea is that our mission was to testify not to our, up-to-dateness and our computer savvy and our, being able to interact with the community around us and fully understanding their philosophies and all that. No, our job was to be remade in Christ supernaturally and to testify not only to him, but to the glory of the Father revealed in him. And this happens how? By the power of the Spirit in us, not because we're so darn smart as to have figured that out. Because essentially, Adam is going the wrong direction. He's spiritually dead. And in terms of dead, we mean torn apart, torn asunder. Where is the spirit of Adam after the fall? It's dead. And what that means is it's wandering. It's cut off from God. And so there's no chance of it kind of wandering back. It can't. The good Savior, the good shepherd, he comes out and finds the lost sheep, lays them on his shoulder, and brings them in. And there's rejoicing as a result of that. So we have a Christian message. The Christian message is about Jesus. The Christian message is about his resurrection and about the lordship which is now expanding across the world. People all over the world are suddenly being brought to Christ in new and exciting ways. People who have for years and years defied and denied or hated the Christian message and the truth of it are being rolled over. Enemies being turned into friends supernaturally. Not because these people are, they put it together. I'm that smart, No, they were helped. They were lifted up. They were joined to a new household. Our testimony is about him. So I was thinking today is that in our churches today, when I go to church today, I'm going to have an ear out. I'm going to try to detect what is it that we're actually interested in presenting. Are we actually interested in presenting Christ in us, Christ over us, Christ with us, Christ who lives forever, reigning and ruling? Is it about him? Or is it about how, we're keeping up with the trends and we understand the politics and blah, 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 and all this other stuff? No. The alternate message of the gospel, we're talking about a new world. You want to know what truth is? It's not a series of axioms and it's not rooted in man-made science. Truth is a Mr. Truth to you. And he says of himself, I am the truth, I am the way, I am the life. There is no other path to the Father except through me, Jesus Christ. The Lord who came is himself the only answer in light of a fallen world. Our testimony is about him and to call forth the name, I am who is saving. This is his name in English, Jesus, we call him, Yeshua. So let's be about this today on a Sunday. And, if you can make it to church, please do. But I tell you what, I've been really discouraged here the last month or two. It's just kind of wearing me out. And so I kind of need to practice, I guess, my Christian testimony in church. That's where it needs to happen, because the judgment of God is coming, certainly. But the judgment always begins with the house of the Lord. Think about it. In the ancient texts in the Bible, why was God moving in terms of judgment? He was judging what? The sins of the nations? Yes. But primarily it was the sins of Judah, the sins of the nation state Israel. The Lord was jealous over his people, and they had wandered, shall we say, willingly, away, and were once again in the swamp of trying to keep up in terms of politics and trendiness and power and influence, and do I glow in the dark enough? Is my smile white enough? Have you noticed these old guys on TV? I mean, politicians and stuff with these beautiful pearly white teeth. It doesn't even look natural. But at any rate, I'm just jealous, apparently. But the point is this: I got to thinking, what's your testimony about? What's my testimony about? Well, we were entrusted with news. How does that news impinge upon our world? Essentially, it says that all things are passing away, and the form thereof. He will replace what we call reality with a new reality. And in that new reality, his people, that's you and me, all gathered from around the world and across this age, joined into a community, one creature, so to speak, called the bride, the wife, if you will, of the Son. A union there, a connection to the living God as a community and as individuals. This is a new thing, an absolutely new thing. And so it's going to be glorious, it's going to be grand, and it's already begun. It's commenced. This new living principle is already in us. And for this reason we testify. It isn't because I want to score points with God. It's because at least I wanted to be the one who, at the end of the world, what were you doing at the end of the world? I was trying to remember Jesus and his mission and his word and his power and his person in the midst of this chaos with these liars and these serial criminals who are called politicians. And we have it's so easy to be torn off into, I'm going to become in part of this faction or that faction. I'm going to be part of this club or that group. That's fine. I don't care. Join whatever group you'd like. But the point is that our testimony isn't about our group or our history or our doctrine or our power or our wealth or our, beautiful smile. Our testimony is about him who came into this madhouse to bring a peace that lasts forever, bought with blood. It's about him. So let's try to make me a Sunday morning special breakfast in my own head. The good stuff. The good stuff is Jesus of Nazareth. The good stuff is testifying about him. It strengthens you. It encourages you, and it could encourage others around you. Maybe. We hope it doesn't drive too many people off. But his word is resounding through the world right now. Hear him. Respond to him, and you'll be blessed. I guarantee it. Call the name, trusting that he hears, and see what happens. He lives forever, and you live in him. It's a new ball game, baby. Rock on.